again, lovely. Here's the problem. I like to keep the back door open when it's sunny, but that means the flies get in, and the flies are not welcome here. And so begins the Great Crochet Fly Curtain Saga. Dun, dun, dun. The first step was to choose the yarn I was going to use. I knew I was going to use cotton. I knew it was going to be 8x4, whatever that means. I don't know. I thought that these little balls of yarn that you can see on the table here would be enough to make all the flowers I needed. So I just started happily making flowers. So first off, I'm going to show you how I made the flower centres. If I'm making amigurumi or a granny square garment, and basically anything that's worked in the round, I usually like to use a magic circle, but I chose not to use one this time, and let me show you why. It uses up way too much yarn, and while I had absolutely no idea how much yarn I'd need per flower, or how many flowers I'd need for the curtain, I knew that I didn't want to waste any of the precious yarn I did have, so instead I chose to just crochet into a slip knot. It really wasn't that big a deal. So I did 3 chain into the slip knot, and then I did 12 double crochets into the slip knot to make round 1. I wasn't going to start working into the top of the chain 3. It was just too fiddly faff. So yeah, 12 double crochets into the slip knot for round 1. I joined the yarn that I was using to make the petals of the flower to the centre of the flower. I put a slip knot in the yarn. I poked my hook through the 2 top stitches, or front loop and back loop, of the tops of one of the double crochets that I'd made into round 1, and pulled that loop through to secure it. And then I did a chain 5, and then I did a slip stitch into the next stitch after where I'd just done the chain, and did another chain 5. And then I did a slip stitch into the stitch next to where I just started the chain 5. Then a slip stitch into the next stitch and chain 5. And I'm hoping I'm making some kind of sense here. I don't know. Maybe watching it helps. And so we go round and around, and eventually you'll get to the point where you've got 6 lovely loops all around the edge of the stitches in round 1. So that's the end of round 2. And now we're going to do round 3, which is the final round. I start off by doing 8 double crochets into each of the big loops of 5 chain stitches that we just created in round 2. So 8 double crochet into the first loop. Right, so now I've finished doing my 8 double crochet into the first loop. I reach the 2 stitches where the loops are joined into the tops of the stitches from round 1. And what I'm going to do here is join these 2 stitches together with a slip stitch. So I'm going to go into the first stitch, then straight back into the second stitch, and then pull the yarn through all 3 stitches on the hook, if that makes sense. I'm kind of joining these 2 stitches together, and then from there I'll just carry on and do 8 double crochet into the next loop. When I get to the joins where the loops join to round 1, again I'll single crochet 2 together, and then carry on again and again and again. I hope that makes sense. Sorry, it's not single crochet 2 together, it's slip stitch 2 together, isn't it? Ugh, God. One little thing I forgot to mention: when you're working on round 3, try and remember to crochet over the tails from where you cut the yarn at the end of round 1, the centre of the flower, and then where you joined the petal yarn to round 1 to the flower centre. It just saves so much time if you can crochet your ends in as you go in, and if you work them for long enough through your work, you can just cut them and be sure that they're not going to unravel. I mean, how many times are people going to touch the petals on a fly curtain? I don't know. It's going to survive. I'm sure it's going to be fine. It'll be fine. Anyway, new day, new dollar. I posted a short where I explained that I did some maths and I found out I've got to make 110 of these flowers. That's a lot. That's a lot more yarn than I have, a lot more patience than I have, but oh well, I'm committed now. I've made a bloody short about it and posted it. Half of my problem is underestimating exactly how long something will take. I always dream up these ideas and think, a couple hours, easy. No. Crocheting these flowers became days and days and days worth of work, and not all of those days were happy. There was a day where I had an ocular migraine. I don't know, new to me as well. Where I couldn't see properly. Very, very odd. So I had to crochet in my sunglasses. And there were the many, many, many times that my fat fingers got in the way and I ended up having to pull everything apart. But after many, many, many hours and lots of perseverance, finally, here I am working on the last flower. I got to flower number 110. I was watching Kathleen while I was making this. Oh, so pleased to be at least a third of the way through this project. So now I'd got all the flowers done. The next step was to use my my design board. It's a bit of a grandiose way to explain it. It's a massive piece of polystyrene that I got when, I don't know, I think my washing machine was delivered, something like that. Anyway, I call it my design board. I aspire to have a proper design board hanging on the wall, like Kate at the Last Homely House, but I just don't have space for that. So for now, I just use my nice portable little piece of polystyrene. So I was pinning out all of the flowers in the order that I wanted them in the curtain. I was going to make 10 rows or chains, strings, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, with 11 flowers each. And that's why I needed 110. And I was watching Anna at Blackthorn Cottage while I was pinning out my design. And here, I guess, is the first interactive bit. So, as you know, from the first video, I really like YouTube. I watch a lot of hours of YouTube, particularly when I'm crafting something myself. I just find it really comforting and entertaining. Anyway, I have made a playlist of just a handful of my favourite creators that I've been watching during this process of making the curtain. I've entitled it Creators Who Helped Me Make the Curtain, because they really, really did. So yeah, all being well, if I've figured this out correctly, you should see the playlist live. Don't go to it yet though, watch this one first. But once you've been and checked it out, please come back and let me know which one was your favourite and give me some suggestions for who I can put in next video's playlist. And by the time I'd finished pinning out the design, which took far longer than anticipated, I realised it was about 9 o'clock at night and I hadn't eaten yet. So I ordered a big arch and watched some bush. So a new day comes around, and there I am, very early in the morning, drilling holes in conkers. Made a short about that as well, if you're interested. Next task was to thread the conkers onto the yarn that I would be using to string the flowers together. So after the conkers were threaded on the yarn, I started to string the flowers together. I think I remember measuring about 4 inches worth of chain stitch, and then I would join to the flower in the middle of one of the petals, and then I single crocheted into each stitch around the edge of the petal until I got exactly to the halfway point, and then again chained enough crochet to make 4 inches, added a flower, crocheted around half of the edge of the flower, and so on and so forth until I'd got 11 flowers on each string. I guess while you watch me do that, it's time for our next little interactive moment. As well as a YouTube playlist, I made a Spotify playlist just of a few tracks that I really, really like, that again, I was listening to throughout the process of making this curtain. So yeah, hit the QR code, download the Spotify playlist, come back to tell me what you think of it, and let me know if you think there's any other artists I should be featuring. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that this part of the process was any easier than making the flowers. It really wasn't. Because I got conkers threaded on the yarn and because the strings were getting so long, there were many times when it all got into a tangled mess and I just wanted to set fire to it. But in those moments, you just have to remember to breathe, put it away for a while, come back to it with fresh eyes. So that's what I did. I have this clothes rail. To be honest, I've kind of been using it to help me film my overhead shots. Look, my setup's kind of jank. This is all still really new to me. But yeah, I figured out that if I laid the strings that I'd already made, the strings of flowers, over the clothes rail, I would theoretically be able to carry on stringing without everything getting tangled up. And it kind of worked-ish. So in this bit, I'm supposed to be showing you how I worked back up the chain, but the angles weren't great. Anyway, look, so I had worked down the string, I'd done a chain which was 4 inches long, attached a flower, worked around the edge of half of the flower, done another 4-inch chain, added a flower, etc, etc. When I got to the bottom of the string, I pulled up one of the conkers that was threaded onto the yarn, secured that at the end of the string, and then literally worked back up. So I worked back up the chain, the 4-inch chain, just doing single crochets. When I got to the flower, I worked around the free edge, the edge that I hadn't worked yet. And then, yeah, single crocheted into the next bit of chain, single crocheted around the edge of each flower. Just kept doing that really. And when I got to the top of a string, I'd make another chain of 4 inches because I wanted the strings to be 4 inches apart, there or thereabouts. Yeah, at this point, I just want to give a friendly reminder that in my first video, I did say I wouldn't be making proper tutorials. As you can see, my process is a bit too chaotic to provide you with instructions on how to do something. I probably didn't do this the most logical way that I could have done. I'd love to know in the comments if anybody has actually tried to tackle something like this before and how you did it in a far easier and more logical way than me. It didn't take me too long to realise that the conkers were a little bit heavy and that the weight of them was just pulling down on the flowers and distorting them. So I fixed that by gluing them. Yeah, I know, that sounds crazy, but I do have form. I crochet earrings. I use micro crochet, embroidery thread, and then to give them a bit of stability, I coat the back in Mod Podge. So I just did the same with these flowers. They took ages to dry, so I had to come back with fresh eyes on yet another new day. And on this new day, when I woke up with fresh eye bulbs and the clarity that only a good night's sleep can bring, I realised I didn't need to use the clothes rail contraption after all. If I had just kind of threaded the strings together, made little bundles, they wouldn't get in a tingle-tangled mess. So that's what I did while I started working along the top of the curtain. So let me talk you through how I designed the top of the curtain, because I think I might have deleted that footage or not recorded it at all. I don't know. Anyway, after I had joined all 11 strings of flowers together with 4 inches in between each string, I started working across that string doing single crochets, and I did 6 rows of single crochet. Then I started this pattern of double crochet. So what I would do is chain 3 at the beginning of the row. Then I would miss a stitch and double crochet into the 2 next stitches. But then for my 3rd double crochet, I would double back and go into the stitch that I had missed. Then again, I would skip a stitch adjacent to the second double crochet that I'd done. Do 2 double crochets into the next 2 stitches, go back a step to double crochet into the missed stitch. So I was kind of going in a 2 steps forward, 1 step back type of pattern, which is really the story of my life. So I kept going with that to make the top of the curtain about 4 or 5 inches deep. I don't know, I just kept going until I just couldn't bear to keep going any longer, and then topped it off with another 6 rows of single crochet before I started making the hanging loops. I was dreading this bit because it required maths, my least favourite subject. So yeah, I needed, of course, to make sure that the loops were going to be as evenly spaced as possible. So I started pinning. I started just trying to work out where I would need to put these stitch markers to know where to make a loop. But wouldn't you know it, for some strange celestial reason, my maths worked out first time. I pinned where I wanted to put these loops and it just kind of worked out perfectly. I don't know, that was a complete fluke. You can see on my face how flabbergasted I was that it worked first time. You can also see I'm still learning about camera angles. I'm sorry if I bumped your head. So I guess now I explain to you how I made the loops. It's worth noting that I made this whole curtain just using 1 continuous piece of yarn. Well, that's not true. I actually got through about 2 or 3 balls, but it was just 1 continuous piece. I didn't make the loops separately, just everything was just made in one go, no cuts, no butts, no coconuts. So to do that, after I'd completed the final row of single crochet, I started on the loop row. So I crocheted the first 8 stitches in that row. That was going to be the start of my new loop. But then instead of carrying on along the rest of the row, I just kept going back and forth, turning backwards, doing single crochets on those first 8 stitches until I reached a length of 5 inches. And then I pulled the top of that loop over and kind of joined it together by working along the row. I think you can probably tell I'm struggling to articulate how I did this. I just hope that watching the video will help you muddle through. So here I am on the last leg, just finishing up the last loop. I've tried to talk you through my process. Not very well, admittedly, but yeah, made all the flower centres, added all the petals, strung the flowers together with 4 inches in between, added a conker to the end of the string, worked all the way back up, started working along the top by doing 6 rows of single crochet, a few rows of double crochet, 2 forwards, 1 back, another 6 rows of single crochet, and the loops. And now I've just said it like that, it sounds so blooming easy. But it really wasn't. Not always. There were days that were really, really hard, probably because I suffer with depression. But anyway, take what you're looking at right now. I'm sitting here, finishing off my curtain, early in the morning, in my pyjamas, after having received some really sad news from my very best friend in the world just the night before. Sometimes you get ocular migraines and you just can't seem to see your way forward. Sometimes you get tied in knots and you just want to set the whole world on fire. Sometimes you receive bad news and it really weighs heavy on your heart, makes you feel unproductive, makes you feel purposeless. But having a little project, or a big project in this case, something that you can use to just stop thinking about what's going on inside your head and focus on what's in your hands. Sometimes it's a real lifeline. So anyway, I think I might have come full circle and potentially even fulfilled the promise to bring you my process, as scatty as it is. A soft space on hard days. There's been a few of those. a source of inspiration. I've made you a couple of playlists. I can't do much more than that. But also accountability. I don't think I would have carried on making this curtain if it hadn't been for you. If it hadn't been for this YouTube channel and the promise that I'd already put out in 2 shorts saying I was making a bloody crochet fly curtain. It's all thanks to you. Mental health can make you lose motivation. But having this channel, having this purpose to drive me forwards, wow, it's great. So yeah, I've received some bad news, but the good news was the curtain was finished, which meant I had to go and clean my disgusting kitchen so that I could show you guys the big reveal. There we go, all finished. Worth it in the end, but I won't bloody make another one. Not the way I did it anyway. Like I said earlier, please, if you've ever tried to tackle something similar to this and you found an easier way to do it, please let me know in the comments. I think it looks really lovely next to my colourful little office chair, which I also made another YouTube short all about. You can go and find that one. Now for the final little interactive bit of this video. While I was cleaning my kitchen, a couple of things caught my eye. I made this by painting on glass with Sharpies. I thought maybe we could have a go at trying to expand on that and make something a little bit more purposeful. But over here is an already very purposeful oven glove. That's kind of gross. Why am I showing this to the internet? Sorry, I think I might want to make one of those. So get in the comments, tell me which one you want to see, and when I've got a spare few days, I'll start work on it and it will be my next long form video. Anyway, I better go. This video is so long. If you've stuck it out this far, thank you so much. Ta-ra, Bab. Bye.